if you can't even go to the ATM machine and get money because the ATMs are not powered? What happens if, again, you run out of gas and you can't go get your gas tank filled because the gas tanks require electricity to operate, right? What happens to our hospitals if they run out of electricity and even their generating systems are basically, bought offline because they've been operating for so long and there's no way of repowering those? What happens? Are we prepared? It is clear to me that we're not prepared.
Cybersecurity problem, I think people need to recognize as we move forward into a more technologically advanced system, and this is to the benefit of all of us and to the utility companies, where you can have computer systems that react very quickly and they're very integrated and they're very sophisticated. But those same sophistications create vulnerabilities, and those vulnerabilities occur almost as fast as they can fix the system, almost as fast as you build it out. It's kind of like having an enormous building that you build, and as you build it, doors appear that allow entry from the outside, and places to hide appear within the building itself, so that it's constantly a challenge to manage who has access to your building, and those who enter your building, it's very difficult to find. The more we're on the internet, the more vulnerable we are to these cyber attacks. These attacks may involve the theft of data or money, but lately it's become an issue with regard to bad actors, especially hostile foreign governments, and that may have been the source of the attack on Ukraine. Some of the things.
One of the questions when the flyer was, what happened if sudden loss of power with a cyber attack? My question is, what's the difference if it's a loss with a cyber attack with a loss with a different reason? You do what you have to do. You have your candles and the flashlights and do the same thing. As far as the consumer is concerned, I think what difference it makes if we lose power with a natural cause, we accept it. If we lose power with a cyber attack, foreign countries attacking us, so that makes a big difference. So not only that, and it does so fast and unpredictable damage, so it is very, very important for all stakeholders to have a great protection from the cybersecurity, from the cyber attack. The main thing what we can do is to make sure that our grid is reliable, which is delivering electricity consistently and uninterrupted, and resilience, grid survivability during extreme events like a cyber attack.
So part of the question is the role and expectations of the government and private sector. First, let me say that your DC government, we get hacked, attacked, mostly attacked every day, all the time. Because sometimes foreign governments do not differentiate between the DC government and the federal government, that we are continually being attacked or attempt to be hacked. And and it's happened, not to any great devastation, but people have gotten in. And we have to have firewall after firewall, cybersecurity action, and there's a presumption just in the law of averages that it'll be defeated now and then, that they will be able to get in and create havoc because of the law of averages. And so we're continuing trying to be vigilant and bringing in new folks and new ideas and plans to stay one step ahead. It is very difficult. And so with that, we have to presume that our grid at the same time is vulnerable to being hacked. Now, we went through...
In terms of solutions for cyber threats, I look at it in terms of the diverse organizations that make up our grid. So I mentioned FERC, they have a national regulatory role. NERC is the North American Electric Liability Corporation. They have a role in setting the standards that all the utilities need to comply with. We have a lot of different types of organizations. We have independent power producers, so the generation part of the electric system is competitive. So I think young people should look to work at independent power producers as well and help them out. There's one of the biggest ones globally is based over here in Arlington, AES. They've won some awards recently on cybersecurity. you know, they're trying to protect their independently owned generation stations from cyber attack. I think the reward was related to the training of people, and of course they got people all over the world speaking different languages, and they're trying to train them on how to prevent phishing attacks and all these sorts of things. So they're not necessarily buying the latest whiz-bang software, but training their workforce on those sorts of things. And then, of course, the Public Service Committee and Commission here has regulatory role. I would also, as we maybe talk about it later, but you know, cyber attacks one thing. We also have increasing frequency and severity of severe weather prevention, but we also got to do survivability. And I want to make sure that everyone here has a place to go when that outage does happen, because it's going to happen again everywhere, you know, at some point. And where's that community center? And is there enough food, water, and blankets, and whatever else we need? So I hope there's some agency that's looking at that.
And on that note, that brings up again a question to Melissa. Melissa, I mean, you guys are responsible for providing electricity to not only consumers here in the District of Columbia, in terms of PEPCO, but also the government, the federal government. And I know, even though you're not necessarily, I don't know if you serve Northern Virginia, particularly the Pentagon, but you know, you definitely serve the White House, right? And so the question is, what you know, what are you guys doing? I know some of the stuff that you guys are doing is classified, perhaps you can't talk about. But for that stuff that you can talk about, what can you say to assure the public that you all are paying attention to this issue? You know, if we do find ourselves in a situation where we can't get access to our ATMs or can't get access to the, you know, gas because the gas stations don't have power. I mean, what are you guys looking at, and what are you doing to work with businesses and hospitals and the like so they can better protect themselves?
Sure. Well, first, thanks again for having us, and thank you for giving us the opportunity to work with you over the years. I know, as you mentioned, that you work closely with Don over the years, and starting to get to know your organization, and it's fantastic, and it's exactly what we need to be talking about right now, both in terms of what we're doing for preparedness and protection, but also what we're doing to make sure that we have the next generation of talent, so that we can make sure that we can continue to provide, you know, service to our customers, safe, reliable, affordable service. That's our mission, and that's what we're here to do. And you know, I think you're asking all the right questions, and to sort of take a step back and look at how we're interacting with as an industry, as a company. All of us across the industry, with regard to cybersecurity, with regard to you know, impacts from potential outages, whether it be natural, man-made, we really take a risk-based approach to this. We know that, you know, we can do everything that we can to prevent something from happening, but eventually, as Director Wells said, as Commissioner Beverly said, there will be something that will happen. So what do we do? What's the approach we take? How do we build redundancies in our system? So just to take a step back in a couple things, right, there's sort of 4 key aspects to how we approach this. One, obviously the tools, the technology, making sure that we know what's out there, making sure that we're utilizing, right, the latest and greatest technology and tools that are available so that we can maintain situational awareness and really have that machine-to-machine learning, right? When there is an incursion, as we heard Director Wells say at the district government, we have them too. What do we learn from that? How do we take that? How do we put that back in our system so that we can actually make our systems more robust going forward? Second thing we do is really around information flow and information sharing, and I think that's a really important piece, and I wouldn't underestimate the value of that, and that's where the work with the Electric Sector Coordinating Council becomes so important. As Commissioner Beverly mentioned, that is a council that was stood up about 4 or 5 years, about 5, 6 years ago now, I think, and it does have representation from all the major utilities as well as government partners on that. And that coordinating council has really evolved over time and is actually, I think, the gold standard in terms of industry coordinating councils. And that council was actually made more robust, and the activities around information sharing back in 2015 when the federal government actually Congress passed, and the President signed the Cyber Information Sharing Act. And while that might not sound like a big deal, information sharing, that's critical because it's threat intelligence that we need to create that situational awareness and to understand and to be able to share that in a safe space where we can actually share information as granularly as we can possibly do between folks that have the right clearances and take that information back, share that within our teams, and then take the learnings to make sure we have redundancies and protections in our systems. That's key. So information flow and sharing is something that we do on a constant basis and constantly, not just within our company, but with our government partners and with our industry partners. Incident response and preparedness, that's sort of another big issue, right, in a key area, and that's one where, again, the coordination with state and local governments are really important. So local government here in the District of Columbia, we do it with our state and local governments in the other jurisdictions that we serve, and more broadly with the federal government. And so we're constantly drilling, doing exercises, and really playing out what could happen if there's an incident, how would we respond, and then taking those learnings and putting them back in. And the emergency preparedness piece, we work with our government partners, but we also work with our customers. And we do that not just around cyber, but around times like this, summer readiness. What are we doing now to help our customers prepare? We're gonna have a lot of hot weather coming, so just reminders even of what customers can do to take care of themselves, what they should have on hand, what they can do to help the entire electric system, respond appropriately when we have, high heating, high cooling days, et cetera. So those kinds of things we spend a lot of time on. And then finally, it's that cross-sector coordination. I think we've heard a lot about it, telecom, finance, electricity. We all work together. It's really important. And we know that at the end of the day, electricity tends to be sort of the core infrastructure that makes everything else operate. So understanding what the system needs are of other critical infrastructure companies, how we work together, and how we can work to respond. So those are just, I think, some of the highlights of how we work through it, some of the things that we're thinking about, and how we're working in partnership with others to really get this done.
One